Hear ye, it is Monday, October 17th. It is 5:03 p.m. I am opening the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust meeting. Please, everybody, roll call. Napier.
Cindy Boundy.
And Veronica Kell attending remotely.
And Joan Savoy present. So thank you, everyone. We are expecting our visitor from MHP shortly, so that's exciting. So we have our roll call. The meeting is being video recorded. Is anyone else recording? Okay. I would like to announce that our trustee Mike Verotsko has resigned effective 9/14/22. I understand, Mike, and we wish you all the very best and thank you for all your efforts you expended on the TAHT. One point. Do you have a question?
Well, we need to accept his resignation. It says if a trustee shall die, resign, or for any reason cease to be a trustee, a successor shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, provided that in each case the said appointment and acceptance in writing by the trustee so appointed is filed with the town clerk and recorded with the Middlesex South Registry District of the Land Court.
Oh, it's because we're the right.
So I think we should move to just accept his resignation. The Board of Selectmen already, we announced it, I believe.
Okay, and I have just finally, thanks to Kathy Spofford, I asked her to, and she sent me a template to complete for notifying the vacancy, notifying the BOS and the town of the vacancy. So we'll just get, I'll just need a motion from someone to accept Mike's resignation.
And to post the vacancy.
Want to make that motion?
Make a motion that we accept Mike's resignation and post the vacancy.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Veronica Kell, yes. Since I'm attending remotely, we have to do roll call votes.
Oh, okay. Joan Savoy, yes. Thank you.
Napier, yes.
Cindy Boundy, yes.
Okay, that's unanimous, and thank you. So we will
Get that to us and I'll put it on the meeting on the 1st of November so that we can get the posting out for our 5th number.
we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of vacancy. Okay, so next I have no 1.5. I have no additions or deletions to the agenda. 1.6 Chair's report. Chair's report includes the following. I have spoken with Karen Chapman at MRPC, and our action plan, our 5-year action plan is not yet ready, but it is coming and they are working on it, and we are most appreciative of that. 2, I, at the last meeting, said I would investigate, and we discussed having a kind of a housing coordinator, kind of general contractor, overseer person, you know, like how do we go forward? And I actually sent Jen Goldson at Goldson Associates, who did the housing production plan for the housing authority, which we're relying on. If she can, for instance, if that's a service their office offers, what exactly is that? How, when, what? Because we don't know. So I will, and I have spoken to that lovely woman in Groton.
Fran.
Right, yes, thank you, about it as well. So we'll get to the bottom of that. Okay, I did finally email Harrison all of the our wonderful webmaster, all of the approve minutes and agendas for him to post so we can get our webpage, the TAHT webpage up to date. I only just did that, so I'm sure he'll need a little time. And I have given the town clerk all of our approved minutes and but not the joint minutes. I was operating under the incorrect assumption that because I believe before you two came on, we had several joint meetings with the Housing Authority. And we therefore didn't have to do our own minutes. I thought those minutes would have been given to the town clerk for the Housing Authority and TAHT, but they were not. So I have those now. I've got to get those also to Ms. Spofford. So at least on that, and another note to self plus TAHT joint minutes. But Harrison does have those. Okay, so that's the end of my chair's report. 1.7, we will review or approve the meeting minutes, vote the meeting minutes from 7/18/22. Did anyone or everyone get a chance to look at the 7/18/22 meeting minutes, which I emailed out to you the other day? Good. Anybody have any problems with them? Everybody good? Changes? No? All right, can I get a motion then to approve those, please?
I move that we accept the 7/18/22 minutes as written.
Second.
And roll call vote, please, to approve.
Beverly Napier.
Cindy Boundy.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Assuming those are yeses.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Joan Savoy, yes. Okay, so that takes care of that. We've approved the 7/18 minutes as written. And we do not have the 8/1/22 minutes yet to review. We will do that at our next meeting, which is scheduled for 2 weeks from tonight.
Did you get that new copy that you sent?
Yeah, thank you.
What date is 2 weeks from tonight?
The night, what's today? I don't even know what the day, today's the 17th.
17.
Oh, no, this is our second meeting. This is, believe it or not, the fourth Monday in the month. So we're into November.
So what is?
November 7th. November 7th is our next meeting.
I will not be available for that meeting.
Okay. Good to
I
know.
also won't be available for the meeting 2 weeks after that.
Okay. So I'm saying I'm November. Great. All right. Thank you for letting me know. Okay,
Can
so
I just ask a
Sure.
question? So November 7th will be our November meeting,
yes,
right?
we meet the
What's
first
the
and
first-
third.
Oh, the
Monday.
first and the third.
Oh, yeah, of every month, unless the
Oh,
meeting's
I
been
thought it was just
canceled.
the first.
No, I write it on every agenda.
Oh, okay,
It
sorry.
says regularly
Okay.
scheduled bi-monthly Monday meetings are held the first and third Mondays.
First and third,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So that doesn't mean we're gonna have a meeting,
On one-
Cindy.
on one, okay. All right, that
Okay.
explains it. I was like, did I not know about this tonight? Okay.
Okay,
I was
good.
in the same boat.
And here is Laura Schufeld, and hi, Laura, welcome. We're
Oh,
we have one bit of business to take care of before you're on.
okay.
Thank you. Okay, so item, section 2, appointments. 2.1, vote to recommend to the Board of Selectmen reappointment of our 2 trustees whose terms are expiring this month. This would be moi and Ms. Kell. So we'd have to do those separately. I agree. I would agree. I would assume.
Okay, so I make a motion that we reappoint Joan Savoy to the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust
And that would be for 2 years.
for 2 years. Okay,
I'll second
And,
that.
And I vote that we reappoint
We have to vote. We have to vote on that.
Oh,
And
okay.
roll call vote, please.
Beverly, yes?
Cindy Boundy, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Savoy, yes. And Cindy, you made the motion and Ronnie seconded it, and thank you. And now we need a motion, please, to reappoint for 2 years Ms. Kell.
I
make a
can't be
motion.
reappointed for 2 years because I'm the Board of Selectmen representative and my term is up at the end of April. So reappoint me for 6 months.
Okay. Okay,
Okay. I make a motion that we reappoint Veronica Kell to the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust for 6 months.
second, please.
Second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Beverly, yes.
Sorry. Cindy Roundy, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Savoy, yes. All right, thank you.
It's unanimous.
And 3, meeting business, 3.1, we are meeting with Laura Schufelt from the Massachusetts Housing Partnership via Zoom to discuss how they can assist our efforts going forward. And Laura, I'll introduce you to everyone. I'm Joan Savoy. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Beverly Napier.
Yep,
Hi,
and Cindy Roundy.
Hi, Cindy.
And Ronnie Cal, Veronica Cal,
Nice to meet you.
you too.
So Laura, thank you. Now that we own some property, we can talk to you.
Yeah,
And please just have at it. Because we're all a little green here, and you do know what MRPC is working toward for us, and you have a copy of our housing production plan, etc. So anything you can tell us will be greatly appreciated.
okay. I'll tell you, I'm the Director of Community Assistance at MHP. MHP is a quasi-state agency, which means we were established by legislation. We're state employees, but we don't get anything. We're not in the state budget, so we're self-financed. And our main business is providing permanent financing for affordable rental housing. We also have the most affordable homeownership program, the 1+ mortgage. We have the Center for Housing Data, which analyzes housing data for to help influence policy and our programs and state policy. And so that's kind of the four legs of our stool. Community assistance works with communities to help strategize and develop affordable housing, help them strategize to develop more affordable housing. We work directly with towns and housing authorities and trusts who have public land that they want to dispose for affordable housing. We have some small grants that we use for pre-development, so site feasibility to see what can be built, how many units, and where on a site, and then can do a few conceptual site plans to say how it might look, always recognizing that as a public agency, when you do a request for proposals for a developer, you can't tell them exactly what you're looking for, either in design or really site design or building design, without stepping over that threshold to a public construction job, which adds a lot of costs to a project, because then it has to be publicly bid and filed sub bids, and then you would have to pay for the design, and then the design goes out for bid. So we walk that fine line. We've done it for years, as to how much you can control and how much you can't. So
So
that's,
you have some nice builders you work with that are mind readers then, I hope.
well, there's language you can put in, and I can show you RFPs and what the resulting proposals have been that come back, and you'll see that They don't really read minds, but they know what people want based on the preferences that you can put preferences in. It's just really not hard and fast rules. You know, you can't say we want a you know, all single family homes with wraparound porches and stone fireplaces. Go ahead.
So can we just back up a minute?
Sure.
How do you work with the developers and us? Do you just put us in touch with them, or?
No, so when you do a request for proposals, it's a the trust would put, as the owner of the land would release a request for proposals, and you do that through a legal procurement process. You can also notify developers directly that the request for proposals is out there, and I usually do that. We don't send them the RFP because you want to keep a record of who's getting it, in case there's any changes or questions that you have to answer going forward.
When you say, does this go out on combis the way we usually do our RFPs here in town?
It goes out on the central register.
On the central register?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the normal RFP process.
Yep.
Okay, so if that's the case, then tell me about the next part that you're talking about.
Sure. So you, in the request for proposals, you also have a scoring criteria. So when the proposals comes back in, you score them based on your criteria, and you can have presentations from the developers. You could have interviews, but interviews you have to ask everyone the same question and you have to score it, and it gets a little hinky. I'd rather have presentations, honestly, because then you can ask for clarification, and then you're not scoring it. And then you choose a developer based on the proposal that they've put forward. Once you have awarded the project, usually there's a land disposition agreement. So it's a legal document between the trust and the developer, outlining everything they have to do in order for you to actually transfer the land to them. So finish their designs, get permitting, get funding, all those things go into it.
So forgive me if this is a stupid question, but so what do we tell the developers? I mean, we say, just build us some stuff. I mean, what can we tell them?
So you can tell them, so first of all, when you do the site feasibility, you'll know how many units you can do. So then you can say, you can't do more than, usually in a town that doesn't have sewer, which I understand you don't, that's usually the restraining point. So you can say no more than X amount of bedrooms. And if you go over 90 bedrooms, it has to be a wastewater treatment plant, which becomes $2 million. So no matter how much land you have, usually 90 bedrooms is the biggest, which is anywhere from 45 to 50 units, somewhere around there. That's for, a large parcel of land, and assuming it's upland and buildable.
So I have to back up.
Yeah.
How does
Okay.
it fit with, we can't tell the developer how many or where on a site?
Well, you can tell them how many units. You just can't be so specific that you say we want, 10 buildings. We want all duplexes. We want all townhouses that are, duplexes. You can say we want, no more than whatever it is, 40 bedrooms in multiple buildings. You can say, we'd prefer you stayed within the height limitations, although that then means that you can't do I don't know what your height limitations is, but you need 3 stories to do an elevator. Couldn't do senior housing, for example, if you were going to keep it to 2 stories, most likely, unless you're doing a very small development.
So Laura, this is if we were going to do a development with MHP versus if this is like, so I'm thinking.
You gotta do this anyway. You gotta do this. This is the way you dispose of land, unless, you know, unless you want to put a design together and get a developer and then you'd be subject to public construction laws if you were to own it. So what happens is you dispose of it to get the housing built.
So when you say dispose of it, that's the land disposition agreement that you were talking about. So we are giving the land to someone else, and just saying, develop affordable housing. These are our rough guidelines.
Right, but when you get the proposals back, they'll come back with the design and a site and a site design and conceptual, elevations, so you'll know what it'll look like.
Okay.
What if we don't like any of them?
Then you start over. Hopefully you put it up in the RFP that they know what you want. I mean,
So if we are to dispose of the land and just hand it over to someone else to develop, granted based on our approval and, requirements, so to speak, who owns the housing? How does the housing remain affordable? And how does it count towards the town's required number of affordable units?
So the developer typically, well, it depends if you want, home ownership or rental housing.
Okay.
If you have rental housing, the developer would own it. They usually develop and own, and they either have a management side or they get management in, they can have a third-party manager. Those managers have to be experienced in affordable housing compliance. There'll be restrictions on the land that it would have to be affordable. So there's the affordable, so they'd have to meet all the requirements for the subsidized housing inventory. That would be part of the requirement that you would give them the land. They have to get approval that the affordable units are there. Someone else has a
All that would
question.
get set up before you give the land to them.
Yes, they would get, I imagine they'll have to do a chapter 40B to permit this. Imagine you have the zoning that would allow multifamily. And so
We don't have multifamily by right.
right. So
Yeah,
they
the overlay district, right?
We don't have an overlay district at this point, Joan.
We'd have to do
so
one, correct?
the developer would get a chapter 40B permit. And that requires affordability, and it kind of locks in, and you have a comprehensive permit. Unless the ZBA puts an end date on it, it's perpetual. Affordability is forever.
Unless they put an end date on it. We have a 40B development in town,
Mhm.
and it had X number of affordable units. And as those affordable units are sold, it seems that nobody who they become no longer, they get sold at market rate and they are no longer affordable. They go out as affordable housing, but then no one bids on them.
Right.
And consequently, they become market rate units. And so we are losing our affordable housing that way. I don't know exactly how the magic happens to have them remain affordable. So one of my concerns is that when we develop this affordable housing, whatever it may be in, I want to ensure that it remains affordable.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that.
So I don't know how old your 40B is.
Within the past 20 years.
So in 2005 or 6, somewhere in 5, late 5, early 6, DHCD got approval from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are the two secondary, they buy mortgages, for a universal, what's called a universal deed rider. And that universal deed rider survives foreclosure, number one. So I know my town's lost a lot through foreclosure from previous ones. And also it does have a provision in it that if nobody that's eligible comes forward to buy it, then it can be sold at the maximum, at the affordable price to someone else, but the restriction stays on, so that person can't sell it to anyone but an eligible buyer. And it stays on your list because it's technically still affordable. So they're not able to, yes, they get it at a good price, but they have restricted appreciation and it has to go, the next one has to go to a affordable buyer. So we've locked down a lot of those loopholes that were in the early deed riders.
Okay. Yeah, this would probably have been prior to whenever that happened. So,
And they used to put them for 30 years and as I'm realizing, 30 years go by
pretty quickly.
pretty quick.
It's true.
So, and on rental, if it's a 40B, then it can't, there's a court case from quite a while ago that said that for rental affordable housing, it stays perpetual as long as the zoning doesn't change. And, if it was to be made to be in compliance with zoning, that would be something, but as long as it's not in compliance with zoning, the restriction stays on. And it would be difficult to get it removed, even if the zoning was changed.
So Laura, if I may, back up to where we're at, we need some feasibility studies because we have $100,000 of ARPA funds, and that's it. And we have these 6 parcels and we don't know them very well. They have not been studied. So I'm wondering if you could tell us about feasibility.
One of them has a plan that was developed by the town for affordable housing years ago, like 2008 timeframe.
Yes, that's outdated, is it not, because of the septic and everything?
Not necessarily. I mean, the plan could still be looked at and, made to comply with whatever the current requirements are. It had a very long driveway and it's a wet parcel. And I think it was only how many units? 9?
9.
That was on it.
Like a 400-foot driveway, at least 400 foot.
Yeah, it's a very long driveway because of the lay of the land there. But that was developed and the town opted not to go forward with it. So
I'm sorry, Anna, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so that's 1 out of the 6. The other 5 are clean slates, more or less.
I'd like to go back to the rental situation. If we build rental units, if we decide that's the route we're going to go, once that developer now has control of that land and he's in control of the rentals as well, do we as a board have any oversight over that? No?
No. The only oversight is with compliance. To make sure, and that would be usually, they'll need to get state subsidies in order to do it. So they would, that's kind of taken care of, but usually someone in the town gets those reports. They're in compliance obviously without tenant names and whatever, because since that's confidential.
Right. Can we go back to feasibility studies, please, Laura?
Sure. So feasibility studies with, I can't do 6 feasibility studies. I don't have enough money to do that for every town. What I can do is I have a engineering firm that I work with on a house doctor contract, and I've talked to them about it, and they can do basically a GIS review of all of the lots to look at what the constraints are and where that, how much is developable on each. It wouldn't be a survey or a deep dive. And then I think if we did that, then you could prioritize. I don't know what you're thinking about for the first one, what you want to, what your goal is.
I actually think MRPC is doing the GISs for us, so we will have those done.
Okay.
Our real concerns are wetlands.
Yeah.
We're chock full of them.
Yeah. So those show up on GIS as a layer for wetlands. Most of them do. Sometimes there's some dips that have to be looked at to see whether they're wetlands. And so it's looking at what there is, and then GIS has them, but they're not always totally accurate. You have to have a wetland scientist go out and delineate them. But I think if you
help pay for that.
I can help pay for that, yes.
Great, thank you.
But I guess, getting back to what your goal is, do you have a preference for how you want to start? I assume you haven't developed before.
Nope.
We have none of, no. I don't know, Cindy, have you?
A long time ago in real estate, but it wasn't me. I was just the real estate agent. I worked with a guy who was an architect.
Mhm.
In where Kathy Penny moved, Ronnie, in Groton?
Yes. Mhm.
Next to her, that they were detached condos. One was affordable, the rest were market value.
Mhm.
They took a 40 acre parcel of land and put 10 units with its own wastewater treatment, and kept the rest as open space. And instead of building, 5,000 square foot colonials on 3 acres of land, but I was the real estate agent. I was a little on the planning and things, but not, but it was a really nice project, and it was mixed, and but I don't know how we do, I don't know how something like that works here, like how we do that.
I think that it makes sense to get the 5-year plan. And I think that what Karen has already shown us was the GIS review and how much was buildable on each, didn't she? Isn't that what she presented to us a couple months ago?
Yes, but it seems so nebulous to me, that.
Well, it is all. So I think we should then do the delineations. Get each of the parcels delineated so we know what's there. And then I don't know, because I've never done this, but this is just what makes sense to me. So once we know how much of each property is developable, get the wetland delineation, and then go forward with what Laura was just telling us about, the thinking about what we want on each, and then where do we want to start with try one with an RFP process or whatever.
Yeah. I would say, since they did this, sorry, with the, with delineating how much land was upland and, or had constraints, didn't have constraints, they have to have it on a map. I have to see it on a map.
We have the maps.
Okay.
We got them prior to going on the walks of each of the properties, didn't we?
Yes, but do we have I don't believe we have those maps in PDF form.
Okay, because you sent me like assessor's map, which don't
Right.
tell me anything.
Right, and the.
I mean, it tells
and-
me something,
And
but
the
not-
verbiage, but I don't think, I believe we were handed those GIS and maps, but I don't recall getting those digitally. But
Then
I'll look
let's
into
ask
that.
Karen for them.
Yeah. Yep,
I think I gave the ones I had to you, Cindy, I believe.
Like this?
yeah, those,
Okay,
yeah, we have those, we were handed those, right.
okay, these
All
were.
right, so I'm making a note to get the GIS maps in digital form.
Right.
And
And
I
I
can get
would
those to you,
start,
Laura?
I'm sorry.
I can get those to you?
Yes.
and the parcel I would start with, the two parcels, so the two next to each other
Yeah.
that are totally developable. They have plenty of frontage. All total, it's maybe 6 acres. But,
Yeah.
and they aren't wet. That's our,
Out.
Oh, the
West
ones in
Townsend.
West Townsend?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
unfortunate it's
Yeah.
not near the town center,
I
but
know.
nonetheless, it's there, it's something.
Do people ever swap parcels? Because like with those, could you sell those parcels to someone that might build like a bigger house up there and make money off of it and then take that money and
We could do that.
and buy the brick store and
we-
build.
We
affordable
could
housing
do
in the
that,
brick
but
store?
the price you're gonna get for 2 lots of land is not
Is
gonna
not
be
gonna
enough
be
to
enough.
buy much.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's an idea.
I don't know, because there's not a lot of available land for anyone. I like those lots, and whether they're for affordable, I think they would be great for affordable housing. But I also think too that maybe you could get a builder that might, I don't know.
So after we get the feasibility, so after we get the GIS maps and the wetlands surveyed, then we can get some appraisals. And then we.
You
can
don't need
decide-
appraisals. You don't need appraisals unless you want to sell them.
Well, we may, or like sell some and put all that money into, like, let's say, I'm just making this up, we sold 4 of the lots, and then we took that money and put it toward building on 2 of the lots, type of thing.
But here's the
Yeah.
question. If we are going to do the RFP process, do we need money? Or do we just hand the land to the developer?
It depends what and how many you're doing, whether they need more money.
Okay, all right.
My guess is, the fewer units, the more money we need. Yeah, that's where we're at, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, there's not as much subsidy for small projects.
So Laura, what do you think our path should be, given what you know about us now?
I think getting the GIS information, deciding if, I think really with the GIS information, we can decide which ones, wetlands delineations are, $6,000 or $7,000 each. So hopefully there's not 6 of them, but I don't have that much money either. But I think we could prioritize just on the GIS. Depending on what or I could say this one you could probably get this many units out of, and this one you could get that, such and such. And then you can decide, because I can put more money into one than I can go deeper with one than I can go with 6. If I do wetland delineation, then we're not going to get anything else, and you might need a survey. Surveys are expensive. So
So Laura, we don't want to upset the cart or step on anyone's toes. So how do you work with MRPC? How do we coordinate you, MHP and MRPC?
I haven't worked with MRPC before, but I do work with the other regional housing agencies, so it should be smooth. I don't know whether they're doing this under a DLTA grant and what they
Yes.
are and what the
Yes.
scope is. They don't usually go further than the scope. Who are you working with there?
Aaron Chapman, and so they will be, so she's working on our 5-year plan for us. And they're doing the GISs, and the grant has a dollar value of 25,000.
So it's a 5-year plan for the trust?
Yes. Based on these 6 parcels.
Okay. 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 Well, I can talk to Karen, see what their scope is, and if they're gonna, if they're gonna do more than just the GIS. If they're gonna be doing any wetland delineation or due diligence on site capacity.
Well, thank you. That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because you two know what you're talking about.
All right.
Anybody have any?
And if you'd like, I can send you, it might be too early, but I could send you some recent RFPs I've done and then the proposals that came in.
Right.
Folks
Thank you.
usually like to see that because it puts your
That'll
mind
give
at
you
rest
some
that you're
idea.
not going to get something that's totally out of character. The latest ones that I've done have all been on Cape Cod. So,
Oh, well, that would be lovely. Thank you. Ronnie,
Yes.
you had something?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so just looking at the plan going forward, getting the GIS info, possibly wetland delineations, prioritizing, going deeper with one as opposed to all 6. Do we need surveys, blah, blah, blah. We do have 100K of ARPA funds that the town is transferring to the trust for the purpose being developing affordable housing or workforce housing or whatever term you want to use in town. Can we use those funds then for wetlands delineations and or surveys if need be?
if the question's to me, probably yes.
Okay. The
Because
question
we do have to spend that money or earmark it by December of 2026. Am I
2024.
correct?
You have to commit it by 24. Well, actually, you got it already, so you have till 26 to spend
to
it.
spend it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as if we don't have the funds for surveying or wetland delineations, but we should prioritize the properties and spend it wisely. Would make sense. So
Yeah, because surveys can run anywhere from 10 to 25,000.
mhm.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I usually save that for difficult site or if there's boundary issues or something like that.
Okay.
Or housing authorities, I have to do surveys.
So Laura, then for next steps, you will graciously get with Karen Chapman at MRPC.
Yeah.
We will get you those GIS maps in digital form. Anything else anybody can think of?
I have a general question, but I'll ask it after we're done with all this.
For next steps. I don't,
No, not for now. It's more, I'll ask it after we're done with this.
Laura, is there anything else you would like from us, please?
I can't remember. Did you send me a letter or an email requesting our assistance? I don't think so.
Officially? No.
Officially.
We'll do that.
Do
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
And then you'll get an award letter and we can, then it's tied up and I can spend money.
Okay, we'd love that, thank you. Okay,
My auditor likes it too.
Is there a form that letter should take, or is it just we request your assistance?
We request your assistance to investigate these 6 parcels,
Okay, all right.
all right? We try and keep it easy.
So are we ready for me to ask my other question?
yes,
I am curious as to what the relationship is between a housing authority and a housing trust.
I know, someone just asked me that.
There's
Right.
actually no official relationship between the two.
What does that mean?
That
There-
means that the Affordable Housing Trust, assuming that you pass the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, you adopted the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust bylaw that the state has out there. You're an autonomous body. So you make your own decisions. You don't have to go back to town meeting or the Board of Selectmen to spend money or to develop land or anything within your board. The housing authority, and you're a town entity, so you're subject to all the procurement and other issues, as a town entity. The housing authority is a separate entity that is overseen by an elected board with one state appointee. And within that board, there's one state appointee and there's one elected tenant member, or there's supposed to be. And then 3 other elected board members. They are subject to review by, if they have federal housing or federal housing assistance vouchers, they're subject to rules and oversight by HUD. If they have state public housing and or state housing assistance vouchers, they're overseen by State Department of Housing and Community Development. And they get their operating and capital funds from DHCD.
Okay. And where do housing trusts get their funds from, other than BOS assigning ARPA funds?
Please, sir, I want some more. Most housing trusts get their funds from CPA. I know you don't have CPA yet.
We are not a CPA town yet. I would love us to be a CPA town.
Most trusts get their money from CPA. There are other ways that they have got it, but it's things like Orleans bonded for it and gave them general municipal bonds. They gave that money to them, so they get $300,000 a year.
Say that again.
They bonded the money. They did a municipal bond for, I forget how much. They did an override to give them money.
4-letter word in this town.
Yeah.
Yeah, in just about every town, not Orleans. Harwich has a cell tower, and the proceeds the rent from that cell tower goes to the trust.
Wow.
Oh, that's a good idea. We do have a cell tower. And it was just bid out for a 10-year contract, I think. So, and we didn't put that in there, but that is a good idea.
Yeah. That's, so instead of going to general fund, it goes to the trust.
Did that have to be voted at town meeting for that to happen? I can find out.
I think it must have to be, yeah,
Mhm. If it's
Um,
being redirected from the general fund, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Those are some of the things, sometimes developers do a payment in lieu. If, I don't think you have inclusionary, an inclusionary zoning law that if they build so many units, they have to do so many affordables.
No, we don't. It's elective. If the planning board requests,
Okay.
it's not a given. So.
Okay. If it's a given, sometimes they have a choice of doing a payment in lieu. And usually that's the difference between what an affordable would be and what a market in their development sells for.
All
So,
right.
So those are some ways that they get it, but the majority of funds come from CPA, honestly. Most trusts get some.
That's that. Okay. All right.
Do you know if builders prefer a project that is one that they will be rentals or ones that they're building for ownership, direct ownership? Do you know if there's a preference with builders generally?
Well, there's virtually no state funds to subsidize affordable homeownership. So they have to do all internal subsidies. So they have to get enough for the market to pay for the affordables.
So Laura, is this a correct statement, please, that let's hypothetically say you have a lot on which you can build 10 rental units, and we decide that, say, 3 of the 10 will be affordable. Do we not get a credit for all 10 units as long as we meet the thresholds for the state for the affordability in that development?
As long as you have more than 25% of them affordable, yes. In a rental project, all of them count. In a home ownership, only the affordables count.
So 25% then equals really 100% for rent for affordable credits. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Anything else?
Monica, you all set?
Yeah, I think so.
Ladies?
So too.
Laura, bless your heart. Thanks for being there.
Okay, you're welcome. Nice to meet you all. And, send along those GIS, and if you have any questions that come up, just give me a call. Give me a email's
what?
best.
Okay, yes, that I do understand. I think what I will do is I will send Karen an email asking for the GIS, and I will carbon you on it, and then you two can meet, have each other's contact information that way, and we'll take it from there. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yep, sounds good.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
get a letter officially
will.
requesting MHP assistance.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good night.
you. Thanks for
Thank you very
coming.
much,
Appreciate it.
Barb.
Bye.
Well, that was sobering.
Very, I know.
I was very surprised to hear that they are a quasi-state agency and they have to come up with their own
Yeah.
financing.
So tell me again, who is she
Massachusetts
from?
Housing Partnership.
It's MHP.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Where Karen
Massachusetts
Chapman is.
Regional Planning Commission.
MRPC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also a quasi-state organization.
Yes, right.
So they're all chasing money also.
Yeah, I think that the state does give MRPC a certain amount for each town that is to be spent.
I think so too, but not a lot.
Not a lot, no.
Is there any federal money?
Well, the ARPA, that's federal.
That's federal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The funds for DLTA and UPWP come from the state.
And the CPA, if we were part of CPA.
What's CPA?
That's the Community Preservation Association, and we have to,
Act.
thank you. You have to vote, the town at town meeting has to vote to join. And if you do join, you get the floodgates, you get a lot of money from the state. However, you have to commit, there is a tax increase, so it can be as low as 0.5%.
I
I
believe.
believe,
correct.
yeah, and up to maybe 3% or something like that, but we'd have to get it through town meeting. But
It
would
was
need a
voted
lot of
down
money.
twice in Townsend in the early 2000s when it first started.
That's how Orleans, that's that $300,000.
No, they did bonds. She said they quoted bonds.
CPA, okay.
Wow,
That's gonna be a tough hill to climb
Yeah.
in town. for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, Pepperell just passed at the last town meeting
Yeah.
for Pepperell. It is a way to get any historical projects funded, to get open space funded, and now they've added housing to that, to the allowable things. It had just been historic and open space. So when the town voted it down, it was only for those two things. But now the state has expanded the uses of the funds to include affordable housing.
so, for instance, so historic would be if Townsend became part of the CPA, we could ask them to help us develop the old library building, for instance.
Well, we wouldn't ask them. The town would get monies granted back. So the state puts in a certain amount for all the towns, but the only towns that get it are those who contribute to it.
Right.
And so we would get a certain amount of CPA funding every year. And then we, the town, could decide to use some of it to renovate the library or the old fire station in the center of town. Or
Maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, but
the-
you have to convince
Yeah.
people well, only 75 people come to town meetings, so maybe we know who to
just
target.
have to get the right 75.
Right.
And people don't want to pay the surcharge on their taxes, is what it comes down to.
I would think 0.5%
It's
might be
minimal,
palatable.
but we couldn't even get the library passed back in 2000 or 2001, whenever it was.
Right.
1999, I don't remember. And that was gonna, anyway, cost us
Okay,
a little bit of money.
well, that's another hill to climb.
Eric was the person, our new town administrator was the person who got CPA passed in Lowell. Lowell only passed it a few years ago.
Maybe he can work on it.
Would one of you like to volunteer to speak to Eric about CPA?
I will.
Oh, bless your heart.
I
Thank
will.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So
Okay,
that'd be
so-
great. So you can get
So
input
I
from
will
them.
talk to Eric.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
See.
I had wanted it on the town meeting last year. So if we can get it on this year, Cindy, that would be great.
All right. I'll talk to him.
It's easy to get something on the warrant. It's just that if he knows his stuff, that would be great. If you could pick his brains and we could, maybe he could tell you what he needs from us or what we could do to help. That'd be great. Thank you. That's lovely.
Okay. I know, because why would you, I don't know, turn away?
Well,
money
that's
every
what,
year.
you
Why
know.
would you turn away for 0.5% on your real estate taxes?
Welcome to Townsend.
I know, it's true, but I'll talk to him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cindy.
All right, so I'd like to move on to 3.2, update on status of our 5-year plan with MRPC. That's a redundancy, obviously, and we discussed that. It's I believe on the schedule, we're supposed to see that in November. 3.3, discuss job descriptions for THT, Administrative Assistant and Housing Coordinator. We do not have those job descriptions, draft draft form. I had given everybody initially, from different towns, their job descriptions. We had the town's admin assistant, but, we'll,
did you send us that?
no, you were gonna send us the town one.
I
And
have the generic admin assistant job
Right.
description that we
Right.
use here in town.
Right.
But I was holding up because, but with the answer that she gave, I was trying to figure out what the relationship was between the housing authority and the housing trust.
Right.
I'm kind of trying to figure out the housing production plan. The housing authority did that.
Yes.
So is it ours too? I guess it is. It's the
We-
town's
We
housing.
have it. Yeah, that's the towns. Yep.
Okay, so how do we not step on each other's toes then? They then can go out and get, it sounds like, DHCD housing money. And we can do the same. How do we not step on each other's toes? Does it matter? I don't know.
I will ask the chair of the THA that question. I'll
Okay.
ask Courtney. Okay.
Because I am now with her saying that they're completely separate. I mean, if we decide that we're going to go forward and hire staff, which Adam tells me that we can.
Yeah.
I was to talk to Adam. Okay, let me find my meeting from this. How do we pay staff? And he says that we can do it. And it's like, well, how does that work?
Right.
But you can hire your own staff. So I am still trying to convince the treasurer that she needs to set up an account for us so that we can transfer the ARPA funds into it.
Right.
The consensus was, well, there are ARPA funds. There are accounts already set up by the accountant. The treasurer has nothing to do with it. But if you read the declaration of trust, our way of expending money is through the treasurer. So just last week, I think I CC'd you, Joan, on everything that I sent out.
Yes, thank you for your efforts on that.
So hopefully we will have an account set up
Good.
by the next meeting
Good.
that we can transfer the ARPA funds into. I'm the one that wrote the ARPA, according to the ARPA policy. The forms that say you have been granted ARPA funds, but Joan, you said you did not receive that form.
I did today.
Oh, you did today?
Today I got it.
From Sabrina.
I had not opened it, but I did see it came in this afternoon.
Okay, so they did not go out. I did it at the end of July. And so last week, I'm like, why hasn't anybody gotten these? And it's because they were not sent then. Okay, so I'm glad they went out.
I'm glad we have you.
Okay.
Okay, so we good? I can move on?
Yep.
All right, thank you. So we will at a future date then, Veronica, actually, if you want to get that generic admin assistant,
That's what I think is our first thing, is the
yeah,
admin.
get that to me and then maybe we can look at it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, without,
You and I can
well,
bang heads on
yeah,
that.
we'll go bang it.
Yeah, and even though I'm not there at the meeting in November, you guys can look at it and go from there. And I'll have an answer on the funding and the accounts.
And maybe we could talk to Eric about it if we have to.
I may have to go back to the Board of Selectmen because our funds are not listed. If you look at the form that you got, it doesn't say to pay for staff. So I might need to do that. Or another angle is to get the town to hire someone that does housing for both entities. It seems a little silly to have housing admin that does one and not the other, two different
Yeah,
housing
yeah.
admin.
Yeah.
So I'm in discussions on that sort of thing with Eric. So
Because this is a stupid question. Are the ARPA funds paying for the administrative assistant? Who's paying for the administrative assistant? Where are
That
those-
is what I, in my head, thought would pay for it, but I did
Yeah.
not write it up as so. The Board of Selectmen wrote it to support affordable housing. So the question
Oh, yeah.
becomes, does that count as support for affordable housing?
Okay.
So
Well, the good
TBD.
news, we're certainly not in a position to need any administrative assistance.
Not yet.
at this
Not
time,
yet,
right,
no.
so
No,
we have
no,
time.
We have time.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know if this is a good place to ask a question. or not. What do you guys envision women as an affordable, like, what would you like to see out of an affordable housing plan?
Well, that's a real loaded question because
No,
I think,
sorry.
I'd like to proceed, I think the way to proceed is to figure out where we're gonna get the most bang for our buck, and that will, requires these reports that we hope to see soon. And then figure out, is rentals the way to go?
I think so.
It
I
seems
think
to
some
me-
combination.
Well, okay,
Mhm.
but I think the way to go is to figure out which parcel is gonna give us the most bang for our buck. And we can afford to do it,
Yeah, so like the parcels up in West Townsend,
yeah,
say,
maybe,
put a couple of buildings on there, maybe some are rentals, or maybe some are condos, or, I don't know, is that kind of like what you're thinking? Or.
Yeah.
Studies do show that home ownership, owners that live in their homes around other people, they keeps the quality up.
Yes,
So when you
Right.
have that.
Instead of all
Uh-huh,
people coming in
Yeah.
and renting in and out. kind of thing.
uh-huh, well, that makes sense, yep.
but if you maybe you could do kind of a mix.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and have.
Like what's going in Groton, he's putting in 5 or some building 200 units. 50 of them are gonna be affordable,
Is that? really
but there's
by
some,
now?
two, yeah, across from the yellow mall
Yeah.
there. Two of the buildings are only gonna have 4 units in them, those are gonna be primo rental units. It's all rentals, so the town's getting 100% credit for 200 units.
Wow.
And even though only 50 of them are affordable, and they're gonna have walking trails and a community center, I believe a pool, the whole.
And so that's.
So here's the question, who owns it then? Is it the
Then
guy
the
that's
gentleman-
developing it?
Yes, the guy that's developing it, and he has his own management company.
Okay, so it's not owned by Groton, but Groton gets the credit with the state. And what
Right.
I want to know is, how do they keep that?
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't, we touched on that a little bit with Laura, I believe, so once, I believe, I could be wrong. I believe that once you enter into these agreements nowadays, with the person that it stays on the affordable. doesn't top out.
That's a slippery slope though. Because, and I don't know who the developers in Groton, and I don't mean to slam their things,
Right.
but I know myself looking for affordable housing. Like the Avalon, they all got federal money to build these huge apartment complexes because they had to have so many affordable units.
Mhm.
And they tossed those people out of those affordable units as soon as they.
Well, that's why I was
Well,
asking
but
her.
I think I believe Laura referenced the fact that they've tightened that up, that you just can't do that anymore. They don't top
Supposedly,
right
they give reports, I guess,
Right.
monthly, whatever, they give reports, and so you can't, I mean, we have to have some type of,
We want to protect
Yeah.
people.
yeah.
I think
Now,
it's.
I want,
With
Go
a
ahead,
deed
Cindy.
restriction on, and I don't know, because I'm not, but I think it would be easier on a deed restriction on a home or a condo than it would be on an apartment rental. Because if you put the
Yeah.
deed restriction
Yeah.
on a condo or a home, that's gonna stay with it. And it's gonna be like this, you can't sell this at market value, this has to be sold for whatever your percentage is that you're doing. Brings me to another question I'll ask you next. And that's the only thing I think with apartments, if it's all apartment, I don't know how you control that because someone else is owning it. And they could turn around and say, well, no one came to apply for the affordable.
Well, the
apartments, or no one
problem we
came
had in
for
this town was that no one wants to buy the Coppersmith Way affordable houses. And didn't one just pop out of affordable and become a,
It's
market
that
rate?
no one comes forward who qualifies.
ah,
And if no one comes forward who qualifies
yeah,
within a certain amount of time, then it can be sold as market rate.
right.
Oh.
But
And
maybe with a condo instead of a home, you'd be more likely to get
well,
applicants.
she said the rules have changed now
Yes,
and how
yes,
that's all
yes.
written. So we're
You know
gonna.
who would know that inside out? Fran in Groton would know this inside out. So I'm gonna make a note to pick her brains again.
So when we get to the point of figuring out what's feasible and talking about what we want on each piece, that's where we figure out I just want to keep whatever we do, I want to keep it as affordable for
Yeah.
the town.
Yeah.
And then the next question is it for people in the town or is it for anybody anywhere?
No, I've taken several courses on this now, and you have to do the lottery, and you can say going into the lottery that, I'm making this up, 25% of towns of the lottery can be Townsend people, and the other 75% would have to be out of Townsend people, but you have to, it has to be lottery.
Okay,
You can't just say only Townsend residents.
okay.
Well, which would be.
I'm
limiting
pretty
anyway,
sure.
For us, really.
Hmm?
It would be limiting anyway, if it was just for towns. and-
Right, because we don't, right. But I'm pretty sure of that.
You know what else too, and I don't know, in one of the other presentations that we've had, because Townsend were in Middlesex County, our guidelines are
Right.
the same as like Belmont.
Cambridge.
Newton, and Cambridge,
Cambridge,
you
yeah.
know, where,
Yeah,
so can we control the percentage of that
Yes,
figure?
yes.
You know, like going in, because that's something else that I think we should do, is to say, you know, we want people that are at 50% of what the
Right.
affordability is,
Right.
you know, because otherwise no one's gonna, no
right.
one's gonna meet the guidelines.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that
there's
makes
a lot
sense.
to.
There's a lot, and my head is spinning already.
Okay, so what
Okay.
we need is the GIS info and,
Yeah.
the action plan from Karen and Laura to talk to each other.
I'm gonna introduce them on email and at the same time request the GIS in digital forms.
And are you going to write the formal letter requesting MHP's assistance for the housing trust?
Yep.
So get that done and then we'll look at what's there and we can talk about each of them separately and decide where to go. So
Okay,
I'll get the money moved.
thank you.
So that it is trust money.
That's
And
great.
I'm
It's
gonna
real
call
money.
Eric, and that should be a slam dunk.
Great,
for the
thank you.
CPA.
That's
All right?
great. Okay.
All right.
So we'll have to do a lot of educating. We might have to go knock on doors, and
Well,
Okay.
we can, whatever we need to do, talk to Eric. He'll have good ideas, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I also want to say, I didn't know I printed this whole thing off. This was very interesting too. With these projects, did you send me these, Joan? New View communities?
yes, New View Communities. Well, I will jump to item 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No,
thought we were
that's
getting ready
okay.
to-
That's okay. Education and resources. So, Chaz Sexton Duranian from the BOS, who's also on the PHA, sent me the information about New View Communities. And I read all of their things and I reached out to them twice and have not heard a peep. So I don't know really how active, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure they're inundated, but I have not heard anything
Because
back.
they had all kinds of things, you know, like housing,
Yeah,
houses,
Yeah.
buildings.
it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I thought.
I
that's-
think it would be great for the buildings that the town owns. The
Right,
old
like the library.
library, the old fire station for those.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So.
So as soon as I hear from them, I'll get right on that one. Okay, correspondence 5, we have no correspondence, items for discussion at next meeting, all of the above. So I'll give everybody updates on the, on everything we've discussed tonight. And Veronica, you'll, well, we won't be seeing you again, but you'll let me know about
December.
the ARPA fund transfer, right? The status of that,
Yes.
okay.
Where are you, Bonnie?
Somewhere
excited.
outside of Buffalo, New York. That's
Oh,
where I am right
okay.
now. Tomorrow we'll be in South Bend, Indiana. The next day we'll be in Wisconsin. And the next day we'll be in Minnesota.
Oh.
And then we'll be in the Badlands, and then I'm flying home. So, and Dennis is staying.
Wow.
So anyway,
Oh, that's
Great.
great. That's great. Have a good trip.
thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy.
All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. So we know we have many items for discussion at our next meeting, and that will include all of the above. Our next meeting is Monday, November 7th at 5 p.m. And I would like someone to make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Someone whose phone is on, so they know what the time it really is. Is my phone.
I make the motion that we adjourn this meeting at 6:19.
Second,
Second, please. Second, BK, and the first was Cindy Bounty. And a roll call vote, please.
Cindy Bounty.
Beverly Napier.
and
Say yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Okay.
Joan Savoy, yes. Thank you all. See you.
All right.